heavyweight champion of the world, Andy Ruiz Jr., has now come out and given an interview at TMZ Sports discussing his rematch, which it's not been formally announced, but we'll assume it happened next, his rematch with Anthony Joshua. And he's come out and said that he will not be accepting the Anthony Joshua rematch if the fight is in the UK. He's quoted as saying in an interview with TMZ Sports that he's the champion and he's the A-side and he wants this fight in either the States or in Mexico. Now that is talk from Andy Ruiz. I can't really argue with it. You know, he went and fought Anthony Joshua. To be fair, it wasn't in the UK, it was in New York. But let's not beat around the bush here. This was a matchroom show. It was all matchroom. It was matchroom fighters. It was a pro AJ crowd. Andy Ruiz, apart from being in the UK, he may as well have been in the UK. Okay? And I think there was even pro AJ judges. I think one judge even had Anthony Joshua ahead in that fight, which is bizarre, really, when you think about it. That a judge could have Anthony Joshua win in that fight. He was barred from pillar to post in that fight. But anyway, Andy Ruiz has come out and said that. He wants to fight in Mexico or in the USA. And given the fact that he's beaten Joshua once, he is the champion, I don't see an issue with him demanding that. I think that, yes, voluntary defences always have rematch clause, and you do have to agree with them. I'm sure we don't see the contracts, obviously, but I'm sure there are some loopholes in there that give you, as the champion, some kind of leeway into making a few demands going into the next fight. Because if you look at it like this, right? Here's a prime example. I know this fight didn't happen, but it was, if it did happen, this is how it would have been. When Tyson Fury fought Vladimir Klitschko, Tyson Fury, albeit he was a mandatory, that had a rematch clause in it. And Tyson Fury beat Vladimir Klitschko, gave him his rematch, but it was going to be in the UK. It was going to be in Manchester. And Vladimir Klitschko, who is a fighter who loves being in his comfort zone, he loves that comfort zone in Germany, he said, okay, I'll fight you in the UK. Fury's the champion. He has some kind of leeway. I think it should be the same for Andy Ruiz. I think Anthony Joshua, Team Eddie Hearn, I think Anthony Joshua, he strikes me as someone who would go to Andy Ruiz's backyard. I don't think he travels the best, Anthony Joshua. I don't. But I think that he's a very proud man, and I think that he would go to Andy Ruiz's backyard. He would. Would Eddie Hearn? Definitely not. Eddie Hearn, I don't want to speak too bad about Eddie Hearn because he is a good promoter and he's done some good work. But you really get the impression that he wants everything his way. So if he is fighting, if he has a fighter who's quote unquote the home fighter but will be going away to someone else's backyard, he may worry about, oh, will this be right, will this be fair? Whereas in the UK, I think he pretty much knows that, let's face facts, his fighter is two rounds up before the first bell's even rang. So I think that's from Eddie Hearn's point of view. He would want that fight in the UK, and I think he'd want that fight in the UK because it'd be such a pro AJ fan base. And if AJ was to be in a stinker, because let's face facts, I can't see AJ fighting a very reckless fight in the rematch. I can see him being very cautious, and if he does bring this fight late, and if he wins on points and it's a dull fight, the US and Mexican fans, they ain't going to let AJ off the hook. And if he gets rocked or wobbled, or if Andy Ruiz, especially if it's in Mexico, if Andy Ruiz even lands, glancing blows, that crowd is just going to erupt. And that could maybe, distract the judges, maybe think that shots are landing when they're not. So I can see from Eddie Hearn's point of view why he wants it in the UK. Anthony Joshua, I believe he'd take that fight in Mexico or the UK or the US regardless. Despite the fact that I don't think Joshua travelled well. But I like to see it. And I think Andy Ruiz, he's beaten Anthony Joshua. If he's going to take the rematch, let him have it in his backyard. Let him have it in Mexico. Let him have it in the US. What's wrong with that? It's branching, especially Mexico. I think that'd be fantastic for boxing. Heavyweight championship of the world defended in Mexico between Andy Ruiz, who has potential, very strong potential, and Anthony Joshua. That could fill a stadium easily in Mexico. Let them have it in Mexico. I've no problem with that. So those are my thoughts on this. It's good talk from Andy Ruiz. I like to hear it. And yeah, I think Andy Ruiz, he should. Anthony Joshua should. If he wants to fight, I've no problem with Andy Ruiz saying this. And if he doesn't want to fight in the UK, I suspect Al Heyman has had a good look at that contract and he may have found some loopholes. You know full well Al Heyman's look at that contract, and I'm sure that there are some loopholes that could be, chucked around. So who knows? We'll wait and see. Let me know what you think down below. Do you think Andy Ruiz should just fight AJ in the Principality Stadium? I think it's where they were talking about. Or do you think AJ should go face Ruiz in New York, LA, wherever, or Mexico? Let me know what you think down below. Hope you liked the video. If you did, like it, subscribe if you're new. And as always, I will talk to you after.